Memphis and Shelby County Board of Adjustment is hereby called to order for its regularly scheduled meeting of December 18th, 2024. My name is Tim Rainey. I'm chairman of the board. Mr. Jeffrey Penzis serves as secretary of the board. Mr. Penzis, may I get a roll call, please?
Mr. Campbell.
Present.
Mr. Claybrook.
Here.
Ms. Conrad.
Here.
Mr. Love.
Here.
Vice Chair Savage Selvin.
Present.
And Chair Rainey.
Here.
We have a quorum.
The Memphis and Shelby County Board of Adjustment is the oldest appointed governmental body in Memphis and Shelby County. We were established in 1925. The board hears appeals from the administration of the zoning ordinance, requests for variances from the zoning ordinance, and other requests as articulated by local zoning laws adopted pursuant to the enabling legislation. The 8 members of the board are appointed, 4 by the mayor of Memphis and 4 by the mayor of Shelby County, with confirmation by the Memphis City Council or Shelby County Board of Commissioners. We serve without remuneration. At this time, I'd like to swear in the staff. We remain seated. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? All right, thank you. May I get a motion to approve the minutes from last month's meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All right, moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Mr. Secretary, please provide us a secretary's report if we have one this month, and then explain the procedure for today's meeting.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. As for the Secretary's report, there are no announcements this afternoon. The procedure for this meeting will be as follows. I will introduce each case as listed on the agenda. Copies of the agenda can be found at the front podium. For each case, the planner with the Division of Planning and Development will give a presentation. At the conclusion of the staff presentation, the applicant will have 5 minutes to present his or her case. After the applicant's presentation, those speakers in support will have a total of 5 minutes, then those speakers in opposition will have a total of 10 minutes, and then finally the applicant will have 2 minutes to provide rebuttal. These times do not include time for questions from and answers to members of the board. The chairman may provide additional time, provided both sides are given an equal amount of additional time. All parties who wish to provide testimony to the board will be sworn in by the chairman. If a member of the audience wishes to provide testimony in support of or in opposition to a particular case on today's agenda, he or she will need to fill out a speaker's card for the record. Speaker's cards are available at the front podium. Once filled out, speaker's cards can be submitted to any DPD staff member at the left podium. We do not need speaker's cards from the applicant since their names are already part of the record. After all parties have been heard, the board will close the public hearing, make a motion, and then deliberate on the case. If the applicant or any speaker would like to be heard after the conclusion of the public hearing, or if a board member wishes to hear additional testimony from any party, a 2/3 vote is required to reopen the public hearing pursuant to the board's rules of procedure. Please note that once the public hearing is reopened, both the applicant and opposition will be allowed to provide additional testimony and/or rebuttal. All motions by this board will be made in the affirmative. The private acts governing the board require the affirmative vote of at least 5 members to approve an application, regardless of the number of board members present. The board may also vote to hold an application for a period not to exceed 3 months with the consent of the applicant or 1 month without the consent of the applicant. All section numbers that we refer to come from the Memphis and Shelby County Unified Development Code, or the UDC, which was adopted by the Memphis City Council and Shelby County Board of Commissioners in August of 2010 and became effective on January 1st, 2011. I will introduce the entire UDC and make it part of today's record, thus dispensing with the reading of individual sections. The board is vested with the power to act on these cases before us today under the provisions of Chapter 9.22 of the UDC. Mr. Chairman, I submit that all cases have been filed in proper order, all applicants have been notified of this hearing, and all notice requirements have been fulfilled as required by the UDC.
All right, thank you, Mr. Secretary. At this point, the board will establish a consent agenda. To establish the consent agenda, the Secretary will call out each eligible case. If any member of the audience, staff, or board member objects to a case being placed on the consent agenda, he or she should do so by a show of hands when the Secretary reads that case. Once the consent agenda is established, the board will vote on all cases placed on the consent agenda as a whole, will not hold individual public hearings on those cases. Mr. Secretary, which items on our agenda today are eligible to be placed on consent?
First, I would just like to note that item number 1 has been withdrawn. Item number 3, BOA 2024-81 at 1016 South Yates Road as approval with conditions. Item number 5, BOA 2024-108 at 6621 East Kerrville Rosemark Road as a hold for 1 month. Item number 7, BOA 2024-110 at 1975 St. Paul Road as approval with conditions, with a friendly amendment to strike condition number 2 as written and revise it to state no detached signage is allowed. Item number 8, BOA 2024-111 at 289 Woodmount Drive as a hold for 1 month. Item number 9, BOA 2024-113 at 12,009 Macon Road as approval with conditions. Item number 10, BOA 2024-114 at 991 Mississippi Boulevard as approval with conditions. Item number 11, BOA 2024-116 at 22 North BB King as a hold for 1 month. Item number 12, BOA 2024-117 at 414 East Micklemore Avenue as a hold for 1 month. Item number 13, BOA 2024-118 at 4940 Pleasant Hill Road as approval with conditions. And item number 15, BOA 2024-120 at 191 Looney Avenue as approval with conditions.
I missed it. Is 14?
14 has been pulled. We received a card.
Okay. All right, so if we could get a motion to approve item number 3, 5 as a hold, 7 with the friendly amendment regarding the detached sign as detailed by the secretary, 8 as a hold, 9 and 10 approved with conditions, 11 and 12 holds, and 13 and 15 approval with conditions.
So moved.
Second.
All right, I want to remind the board that by voting on the consent agenda, he or she affirms that he or she has read the staff report and is in full agreement with the conditions. Mr. Secretary, may I get a roll call, please?
Mr. Campbell,
Approved.
Mr. Claybrook,
Yes.
Ms. Conrad,
Yes.
Mr. Love,
Yes.
Vice Chair Savage Selden.
Yes, I find that the standards of the UDC of 9.22.6 are being met and will not be unduly detrimental to the properties in the vicinity.
And Chair Rainey.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, so if you're here for those cases, you've been approved or held as requested. And so now we're going to, Mr. Jacob, if you call our first cases, and so y'all are free to go. Have a good day and a good holidays. Mr. Secretary, if you will call our first case we're going to hear.
Item number 2, BOA 2024-101 at 4758 American Way.
All right. Is the applicant here? Yes, okay. If the applicant will go ahead and kind of come down towards the front, just so he'd be ready. And if Mr. Waldrop will give us a staff report, please.
Good afternoon, Nicholas Wardrop, Division of Planning and Development. This is a request by the applicant, Ms. King, who's with us here today, for a use variance to allow an impound lot in the CMU3 zoning district located at 4768 American Way. So here's where we are. We're in southeast Memphis, just south of the Loop. Here's a vicinity map showing properties to which the owners were mailed notice. So just a little background introduction. The applicant is proposing an impound lot in CMU3, which is a non-permitted use. The UDC separates towing services into with and without impounding. And impounding is limited to industrial districts. This property was used for a permitted use vehicle repair less than 2 years ago. And so we recommend rejection due to a lack of an undue hardship, practical difficulty in using the property for a permitted use. Here's some photos of the site dated 2022, specifically July 2022, and you can see the property is actively being used for vehicle repair, which is a permitted use. Here is some current photos of the site provided by the applicant. Note the barbed wire fencing over here to the east. And so this is behind that fencing, showing where vehicles are stored. Here's the surrounding zoning of the property. You see it's commercial along American Way, a mixture of CMU 2 and 3, but with RU 3 to the south, as well as single family further south. And the surrounding land uses are, again, multi and single family further south, and then along American Way itself, commercial and office uses predominantly. So getting into staff's analysis, as you're aware, this body is required to find in granting a use variance that none of the permitted uses on the site are practical. And as this site was recently used for vehicle repair, we can't make that finding. The site also features a garage designed to be used for vehicle repair, and we therefore recommend rejection. I'll also note that the UDC is intentional in permitting towing without impounding in CMU 3, which is our heaviest intensity commercial zoning district, but impounding, restricting it to industrial districts, right? Impounding is associated with, long-term storage of vehicles, and the UDC, it's the intent of the UDC to restrict that to industrial zoning districts. And our concern is that approval of this variance would undermine that intent. So we are recommending rejection. However, if approved, we're recommending the following conditions. The major thing is a sunset dated January 1, 2027. That, if approved, the intent of that would be to give the applicant time to find a new site. And no vehicles being stored in front of the front facade of the primary structure, and the barbed wire fence being removed. So with that, I'm available for any questions.
Are there any questions for staff? All right, thank you very much. If the applicant will come up and I'll swear you in. If you'll give your name and address for the record.
Tyranny King, 4758 American Way.
Okay, Ms. King, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, go ahead and share with us.
You said share what?
Share your thoughts on what staff has said. Staff has recommended rejection, so why would you not like it rejected? Why should it be allowed in an area that it's not allowed?
Because I feel that it will do no harm to the community, and we've been there for a year and we had no complaints at that site.
When did y'all start operating as a tow yard?
A year ago in May.
Okay. So May 24 or May 23?
May 23.
All right. Does anybody have any questions
I
for
do,
the applicant?
Mr. Chair. So you're saying, are you operating as a business or partnership or in this impound? I mean, where are the cars coming from?
They're being towed in for around the city. We do roadside, so when the vehicles break down, we're towing them in.
Okay, and how long are the vehicles staying? Are they there for a long period of time? Are they rotating out?
They rotate out. Mostly, if we tow in the vehicle and the dealership is closed, then we'll store it overnight and then tow it in the morning.
So on average, how many vehicles do you normally store, or are you storing at this point?
Probably like 3 to 4 vehicles.
So not 30, 40 vehicles on this lot? It's
No.
Okay.
Y'all don't do anything but tow and store though? Like you're not operating as a garage that's fixing cars?
No.
Okay.
I guess I have a question for Mr. Do we have any updated pictures of how the tow yard looks today?
So I asked Ms. King to provide photos, and these are two of the ones that she provided.
I was like, there's also an aerial image on page 4 of the staff report.
When was, do you know when that was taken? Mr.
2024.
Pensis?
That was taken last week.
Oh, what I'm talking about is that.
The
one.
aerial, this aerial is from 2024.
Can you repeat that?
The aerial image on screen right now on the TV, this aerial image is from 20 and 24.
2024?
Yes.
Okay.
And are the vehicles all stored, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, but
No, go ahead.
are all the vehicles stored behind the fence?
Yes.
Okay. I have no further questions, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions for the applicant?
I got a question. With this regard to the permitted use of a vehicle repair shop, that is a permitted, is that a permitted use or is it?
That's correct. And I'll just clarify that the UDC considers towing, if you're not impounding the vehicles and presumably keeping it there against the vehicle owner's will, that's permitted in CMU3. What is not is impounding, right? And so the enforcement mechanism on this, how this got to us, is that, my understanding is that Ms. King approached the city to sign a contract for impounding, and the city wouldn't sign that contract with her until zoning okayed it, right? And impounding is a non-permitted use.
So the biggest difference between how they're viewing it is towing is, I guess, more voluntarily, where impounding is more forcibly taking or removing a vehicle.
That's true, and towing is also permitted as a accessory use to vehicle repair, if you're actually repairing the vehicles on site.
Okay.
And the vehicles stored there have to be actively awaiting repair, if you're considered a repair with towing.
Okay. And this is strictly impounding, like you all aren't towing cars that have died on the side of the street.
It's both. Well, we're currently only doing a breakdown tows, but to get,
Okay, I'm with you.
So if, let's say we did a breakdown tow, I call, my car's on the side of the road, it's a Saturday night, so I can't get it to my dealership until Monday. If they keep it overnight, is that considered impounding, or is it really only impounding when like the city's calling and say, hey, come get this wreck and we're gonna hold it until they come and pay a fee?
Yeah, the first situation you described would be permitted in this district.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to, is it definitely, maybe a tow impound versus impound, I guess so. We can get in a discussion.
Well, yeah, we can talk about it in discussion. Okay, any other questions for the applicant?
I have one, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Lynn.
Ms. King, so is this application, are you all submitting this application with intent to take the contract with the city to impound?
yes.
How much do you think your business in regards to only the impound will increase? Do you have a projection of how many cars you'll have once you get the city contract?
No, because even if we get the city contract, we won't be doing the city rotation. But we have to have that permit to have towing, to be towing, period.
Is that accurate? Like if I could call her to tow my car and leave it there for 2 days, and she can do that right now.
Under the UDC, yeah. There may be other city permits I'm not aware of, but
Okay.
under the UDC, that would be permitted.
Okay. All right. Any further questions?
I'm still a little confused. So if you get the contract with the city to impound, you won't be taking impound cars from the city?
No, I say it won't be as many because the city you have, where you're on rotation, you have emergency cars, so we won't be doing the ones where we'll be impounding the cars that you'll have for, like if somebody abandoned cars or something like that.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? All right, thank you. you, Ms. King. Appreciate it. Is there anybody here that, else that's speaking in support? I don't think so, and I don't think we have any opposition either. Okay? All right, if we could get a motion to approve BOA 2024-101 as conditioned by staff.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion?
I guess I'm in support of it if it is in that rotation time frame. If we're not holding anything, no more than, if I'm picking it up, like you said, overnight, my car breaks down and I'm having it towed to an actual dealership or the repair shop. My concern though is, Mr. Loves, if they get the city contract, do we need to set a maximum or minimum amount? Because again, if they get all of those, then we're going into, we get everything on the side of the road. And then, how long does it take for?
You ever picked up a car from an impound lot?
Yes, when they stole my vehicle.
Yeah, me too. Me too. And it was rough.
Yeah.
And there were many, many cars there that are never going to be picked up, as opposed to when I call, I need help and I'm getting my car. And I think that's where the UDC is looking at, is something's actively happened with the car by what the owner of the car wants, as opposed to something's happened to that car and the owner's not taking care
It's
of it.
abandoned, yeah. Do we have that power to restrict to that level
I
of?
think what you would do is you would just say, no variance, and they can keep towing for me.
Okay.
They just can't tow for the city. And
Gotcha.
get they don't end up with the junk cars.
Gotcha.
So the business kind of keeps going, but they got to figure out a way to just get the word out, call us to tow your car and we can help. As
Right.
opposed to getting the city calling.
Gotcha, okay.
Or,
If you go with the amendments, then it would just be through 2027, and all the cars would have to be behind the fence,
do the cars,
whether it's impounded or not.
Was that the recommendations?
yeah, those up there on the,
Okay.
number 4, or number 3 and 4 really, or what Ms. Conrad's talking about.
Well, I think it's just saying, it gives number 3 gives them a whole 2027 to find another place to house it. Okay.
And also additionally, it looks like number 4 states that no vehicle should be stored in front of the facade. So I'm assuming that's behind the fence, but still in front of the facade.
Right.
So that's not just behind the fence, right? Is that behind the fence and in front of, because I'm looking at this,
Oh, there is that side.
yeah, would that mean that no cars can be stored kind of in this,
I think the whole front's the facade.
the whole front?
I think so.
So that means all the cars will be there.
Right.
Yeah. So,
And I'm good with the conditions that staff has recommended.
What is, Mr. Wardrobe, what would be the difference? You have the number 3 is kind of a sunset,
Right,
but they're really not impounding at all now.
that's correct, yep.
So
temporary variance.
what would change for them if we struck number 3? Or is there even a point to being here if number 3 is not in it?
Oh, so if you struck number 3 and approved the variance, then they would be able to impound in perpetuity.
Right, okay, yeah. So, I mean, the way I would want to do it, if I got to I would just let them do what they're doing now. I just want to make sure the cars are in the back. I don't see the reason why I want to open up to impounds that we're going to then stop impounding. We're giving them short-term permission to do something. They already have a business that's able to do something there now.
Yes, it's a little different than a business who were for some reason doing it unknowingly, and we just allowed them to continue it.
Correct.
Versus saying you can start it, and then you're gonna stop it in 2 years or so. I get what you're saying. It's almost like just don't allow.
Are they allowed to hold cars in front of the facade now as a towing business?
I don't believe we have a use standard about that.
I think it just has to be at least 15 feet from.
Yes, I think that's, yeah.
Okay.
But their current fence is behind the front facade, and obviously they would still have to meet their regular parking requirements.
Right, so there's not really a lot of room to not do it behind there.
Correct.
Okay. Any other thoughts?
Mr. Chairman, is there an option to maybe, I guess I'll look for Mr. Walter too. Is there a thought of maybe limiting the number of cars that can be stored, period, that can be impounded?
Yes, so if you all choose to reject this application, they would still be subject to the UDC's limit on the number of vehicles, which is based on the square footage of the site. I don't have the math on hand, but it would be somewhere in the neighborhood of 25 vehicles.
Okay.
We could limit that or put a condition in the recommendation that no more than X cars be stored with the condition that they are behind the fence, behind the facade. That would help with any visual clutter.
Would we be granting a variance though? Like
I mean, the variance is really about the impounding
Right.
of vehicles against people's will. If we don't want to allow that, there's really no point to approving the variance. Like, they can still continue operating as they operate today without the variance. It's only this impounding of vehicles, which is basically when you're taking like the vehicles against generally someone's will.
So if I'm illegally parked, so that I'm clear, so if I'm illegally parked and they come tow my truck in front of
That is
City Hall.
one of the things the variance is for. As of right now, it's like if your car breaks down, you can call them, and like the repair place isn't open until the morning, they would just store it here until the morning.
That seems more predictable.
Yes.
As far as length of time cars will be there, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I know that like when I've been to impound lots, they'll, people just, and we've dealt with it here, other places will, and they may not be open to allow people to drop things off, like where other tow companies, they just drop it in front, with no wheels on it. And they pick it up with a skid steer. That's probably not how they're using theirs. Even if they were doing it, it's not big enough to do that. But I think I would feel more comfortable with no variance, but allow them just to do their towing they're allowed to do under UDC.
Okay.
That would be that would be a no vote. But they still can have a business if, and that's why I don't think we really need number 3, is because they're still able to do what they've been doing. We're just not letting them do something for a short period of time they haven't been able to do.
It was better, I better understand when you said against their will.
Right.
It's one thing for me to call ahead, but, okay, I get it. Understood.
Is there any other discussion? Are y'all ready to vote? Okay, if you can give us a roll call vote, please, Mr. Princess.
Ms. Conrad,
No.
Mr. Love,
No.
Mr. Campbell,
No.
Mr. Claybrook,
No.
Vice Chair Savage Selden,
No, I find that the standards of the UDC of 9.22.6 are not being met and will be unduly detrimental to the properties in the vicinity.
and Chair Rainey.
No.
Motion fails.
All right, motion fails. Good luck, Ms. King. We wish you success in your business, just not with impounding. Mr. Secretary, if you could call the next case, please.
Item number 4, BOA 2024-107 at 7712 Powder Run Lane.
Okay, is the applicant present?
Yes.
Okay, and is there any opposition here? No. Okay. If we could get a staff report, please, from Ms. Longstreet.
This is Alexis Longstreet presenting on case BOA 2024-0107 located at 7712 Powder Run Lane. This is a variance to allow a metal detached garage. This property there are 181 notices mailed out on November 27th. This property is located within the CA zoning district, but there is an overlay of a planned development and the land use designation of single family. Here's an aerial view of the lot. And here are some site photos. The applicant is proposing to extend the driveway and place the metal detached garage within this area here. It will be utilized as a structured garage for their additional vehicles in addition to their pre-existing garage that was built with the home. Here's a survey of the lot as it currently exists. And here is the proposed site plan that is reflecting the extension of the pre-existing driveway and as well as the metal structure that would be placed in the northeast corner of the lot. So there are a few things attached to this case, along with the things I mentioned earlier of the pre-existing side-loaded attached garage and the utilization of the additional garage. There are some relative familiar detached structures within the neighborhood, such as sheds mainly, and they are also in keeping with the structure of the home. This variance is being requested simply because the metal structures are not allowed within the residential area. The building material being metal is, as I just mentioned, is what does not comply with the UDC subsection 2.71E. And it will also be much larger than the neighboring property that the applicant has mentioned, and you all will see that referenced in the staff report as well. There is a neighboring property a few houses down and on the corner that does have a detached garage. It is addressed in the staff report. There was a building permit pull for that was issued. We couldn't find any record, given that it predates before we started using our online database, that we couldn't find the inspections that were passed, but that structure, even in itself being detached in metal, it has siding and everything that is very similar to the architectural style of the home. So we did recommend rejection on this case, but as I mentioned earlier, there is a condition placed that if the metal accessories shall be clad with an exterior finish that is very similar in architectural keeping with the residential principal structure. That concludes my presentation.
Are there any questions for Ms. Street?
I have one question. Is the issue more with being detached, or is the issue more with just being a metal structure?
The issue is the metal structure.
Okay. Just want to make sure. Okay.
Quick question to piggyback on that. It's not the size of the metal structure that's the issue, right? It's just...
No, it's the fact that it's just the metal structure, because we do not permit and allow metal structures within residential areas.
But everything's built behind the setbacks, it's all where it's supposed to be?
Yes,
allowed.
everything
Okay.
as proposed here within the proposed site plan, would not present any other issues. It meets all the proper setbacks.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, if the applicant will come forward, please. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
If you'll give your name and address for the record for me.
You kind of help me. My hearing is.
Give me your name and address.
The name and address.
Lawrence Counts, 7712 Powder Run Lane, Memphis 38125.
All right, ma'am, why don't you go ahead and do the same thing?
Okay.
Murphy Counts, 7712 Powder Run Lane, Memphis 38125.
Okay, do y'all swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
Go ahead and tell us about your project.
Okay, I'm owner of some classic cars, and, I just need additional space to keep the vehicles at home. Right now, I'm leasing a storage unit, and I just think it would be more cost effective. As far as the material is concerned, my neighbor directly across the street from me just built one 2 years ago, so that's why I got the ideal as far as metal. And my neighbor, 2 houses across from me, he had his put up when the house was built. But I'm not opposed to changing materials or following whatever recommendations that need to be done. Yeah.
Okay. Are there any questions? From what I understand, they did a little research on your neighbor across the street, and they're an example of why when people get building permits now, it goes through code as well. Because they never should have been allowed to build the metal building there. Like, they didn't do anything wrong. I mean, they didn't abide by the code. They didn't know they weren't doing that. But it really just isn't allowed to have a metal structure like that in a residential area. So, one, I think it's gonna look a lot nicer if you don't make it metal. I mean, I think you can take the metal building as your base and then clad it with something. It's gonna look a lot better, and you don't even need anything from us to do that. You know, you don't need a variance anymore because you're going to be building a structure that's allowed by code. So if you're okay with doing that, I think that's what you need to do, is my thought.
That's what he said.
Yeah, sorry about that.
He said it's okay as long as you use another material, right? Something that kind of blends in with the home.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
Yeah, we have no objections to that.
Then I think we don't need to be here. I think you can go, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, you can go build that. You'll just need, I think, in part of getting your permit, you'll need to have the plan of what you're gonna do on the outside, but that's gonna be better. It's gonna look a lot better, and it'll be more aesthetically pleasing with your house. I mean, and the one across the street doesn't look, it's not the worst I've ever seen. You know, it's painted, the color, I mean, the way they painted it looks a lot better than like, hey, there's a metal building there, but yours is gonna look way better if you put something else on the outside.
Okay.
So, okay,
Thank you.
all right, thank you so much. Do we need to take action,
Or withdraw, will they need to
or
withdraw?
should we?
So either they need to state they withdraw their case, or we just vote it down. Either way will work.
What if we hold it, just so they can get their idea before, to get their permit?
We can do that.
And then they never have to come back, probably. But instead of, I don't want them to withdraw, and then they gotta, something happens and they can't do it, and they need to apply again. I don't know that we'd say yes if you applied again, but I hate to like just completely cut them off if they, because they need to probably talk to get the building permit done.
Okay. So yeah, we just hold it for 1 month.
Okay. So does that make sense? Here's what we're gonna do. Instead of just not taking a vote or voting no to not allow the metal building, we're gonna hold the case for a month, just so you can get your building permit settled.
Okay.
So, and then, so if something happens or we're not doing, you're not having to pay another filing fee to come back or anything like that. But I think you should be able to just, you won't have to come back.
Okay.
Just, but I would go ahead and get your ideas down and go ahead and get your building permit in that month, just to make sure. I just don't want to waste your money just in case y'all find out you need to move it a hair or something and we already have a case pending.
So I don't know the process for getting a permit. That's something, okay.
Yeah, initially, you know, when we started this, we went to the county and we did get a permit, but then it was, I guess because of the material, they said that we had to, you know, file for the variance.
Okay.
But I
think
did file for a permit.
Would you help them with that, Alexis?
Yes, so I just spoke with the Brett, and it does look like they do have their building permit in Acela already currently, and so it was being held because of the building material issue. And so we will work with you all and submit plans and things like that and review them for the material.
Okay. All right.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so we're gonna take a quick vote, or I'm gonna go ahead and put the motion out to hold for 30 days.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. So it's held, but we probably don't need to see you again.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right, best of luck.
Happy holidays.
Yeah, you
Happy
too.
holidays.
Okay.
All right, if we can call the next case, please.
Item number 6, BOA 2024-109 at 12,575 US Highway 64.
Okay, and I'm going to recuse myself on this case. I think that this property is a pending closing in my law office. So I'm gonna step down.
All right, as Mr. Rainey steps down, I'll slide over and let my mouth work today. All right, I see we have, the applicant and the opposing spokesperson. All right, Go ahead, Mr. Walter. Give us a staff report, please, sir.
Good afternoon, Nichols Wardrobe Planning and Development. This is a use variance request to allow HVAC assembly in the CA zoning district out in the Arlington adjacent unincorporated county. So here's a quick map of where we are. As I stated, we're out in the Arlington adjacent unincorporated county south of Highway 64. Here's some photos of the site. You can see it's a vacant site, about 6 acres. So again, we're on US 64, we're looking, that's a typo, we're looking south, north is in Arlington. Here's an additional photo of the site from the side road. Here's the surrounding zoning districts. Again, you'll see to the north some acronyms that we don't use because it's in Arlington, but to the south is predominantly CA zoned. And the surrounding land uses, we'll talk about this. There are industrial uses in the vicinity, commercial and office uses in the vicinity, as well as large lot single-family uses. So with our analysis, we're recommending approval with conditions, and in doing so, we sort of thought about these things. So one, the CA district predominantly allows 2 uses, right? Single-family residential and agriculture. We came to the finding that both of those are likely impractical due to the site's proximity to commercial, office, and light industrial uses, both in unincorporated Shelby County and in Arlington. There are, of course, single-family residential uses. You see here to the south and to the northeast of the site, there are single-family uses. Those uses do predate the commercial uses in the vicinity. There's reason to make an argument that they wouldn't be built today due to, so for example, you see immediately next door a RV rental, storage facility. You go a little further east on 64, there's a Kubota dealership. North in Arlington, there is a office business park type area. So there's an argument to be made that those single family residences would be unlikely to be built today. The nearby, those residences, with one exception, they don't front 64 itself, they front a side road. This property, if it were to be subdivided into single family residences, at least one likely would need to front 64 itself. And we find that the proposed use, HVAC assembly, is a light industrial use according to the code, but it's really less intense than some other uses that the EMP district, that are restricted to EMP. Additionally, I want to note that our recommended conditions would require some pretty significant site plan revisions about landscaping. So they would require a class 3 buffer, and I've got an image of that on the next slide, around the project boundaries. So along where the property abuts single-family residential properties, we'd require some improvements to the material of the fencing, the proposed fencing along 64 itself, and we'd require that any chain link is site-proof of fabric or some other method along with the landscaping. So our recommended conditions would require something to this degree. So if it were to be chain link fence, 7 trees per 100 feet around the site. So again, we are recommending approval with conditions. And with that, I'm available for questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Walter. Are there any questions for staff? No questions? Okay, looks like we have the applicant. Step forward. Give us your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, Tim McCaskill with the Reeves Engineering Firm, 6800 Poplar Avenue.
All right, do you swear to tell the truth, whole truth, nothing but the help of God?
I do.
All right, go ahead, Mr. You've heard staff recommendations. Do you have anything to say?
We are in agreement with the staff's recommendations. We think it's the right recommendation. As they said, nobody's built a house on Highway 64 in 30 or 40 years. It was, when it was a 2-lane road, it was residential. But since then, it's become commercial. Everything that's been developed through there has developed as commercial. This particular site is 6 acres. So obviously, it's not going to be farmed. It's not large enough, and nobody's going to build a house on the 6 acres facing Highway 64. Also, there's no sewer out there for residential development. It's in the county, and they can't develop it. But anyway, we think this is a good use. 12,000 square foot building is pretty small for this size lot. There's going to be a lot of green space on 64. We're going to have landscape buffers along Washington and the other side, the back side. So this really will not be seen in a few years when that buffer matures. So anyway, we'll save the rest of our time for rebuttal.
Yes, sir. Are there any questions for Mr. McCaskill? We have about 8.5 minutes. All right, opposition, we have Ms. Cora Shannon. You may approach the podium.
All right.
If you please raise your right hand and give your name and address to the court, please.
My name is Cora Shannon. My address is 3029 Washington Road. Yes, I am opposed to the development.
1 second, let me swear you in. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am, I do.
All right,
Okay,
go
now.
ahead. Go ahead and give us your
Okay.
side, Ms.
Yeah, I live directly in front. In fact, the property line that the opponent is trying to develop is directly in front of my house. Now, I brought the pictures from last year on the vote for a rejection on this property from last year, and it was rejected, and now it's back again. I have the pictures of my house before on July 24, 2020. I have the improvement that has been tried in front of my house. I have what it looked like May 16, 2023. I have my road that has been tore up on July 29th of 2023. I have the dump trucks that have gone up and down my road on December 13th of 2024 at 2:35. I have my neighbors trying to get back and forth from Washington Road around to Old Eads. I have pictures of every last one of them.
Ms. Shannon, can you pass those pictures over? Ms. Walton, can we try to get those passed out? So to be clear, are you opposed to the entire project or just
I'm
construction?
opposed to the entire project because it's already been rejected for another facility. Now it's back again on the same road because I live there, have lived there for the last 26 years. That's why I keep opposing it.
Okay, so you're opposing this project?
Yeah, I'm opposing this project too.
Okay. Are there any questions for Ms. Shannon?
Are there any neighbors on either side of you, Ms. Shannon?
No, it's 3.5 acres that I live on. I have no intention upon selling my property. I have no intention upon moving.
Okay. All right, Ms. Shannon, if you don't have anything further.
No, that's it.
Okay. Well, we thank you for your testimony. All right, we're going to call back up in support. You have actually 10 and a half minutes.
Okay. We did a survey on this property about 30 years ago. And at the time, there were one or two houses on it that were not lived in, even then, that were subsequently torn down. This was a residential neighborhood in the 40, 50, 30 years, 35 years ago. But as the neighbors move away, the houses are torn down. There's never going to be any more residential built out here. Also, we're not having an entrance on Washington. Our only entrance and exit is on Highway 64, so we're not going to do any harm to Washington Road.
Sorry, Ms. Shannon, you have to let him finish.
Even though it's done, we didn't do it, and I don't know if it just hadn't been paved in a long time or what. But we're not going to cause any damage to it. Entrance is on 64. I can't think of a better use. The last time we came to here with a project, it was an expansion of a mini storage. There's a mini storage to the east, the RV storage, and they were going to expand it to this lot, and it was rejected. But we think this 12,000 square foot building for a mechanical contractor is a very good use for it. And I will point out that that only applies to this particular mechanical contractor. It doesn't apply to the property at all. If somebody else comes in there, they have to come back and get their own special use permit, use variance to do this. So anyway, we hope you approve it. And if you have any questions, I'm here.
Thank you. Are there any questions in support? Yes, sir. May I have your name and address for the record?
Yeah, it's Todd Bradford, 12780 Seward Road, East Tennessee, 38028.
Okay, swear to tell the truth, whole truth, so help you God.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, you have 4 minutes and 40 seconds.
Okay, Mr. Shannon was talking about the road being torn up and everything. Washington Road is it's an old 2-lane road that's not been worked on since I can remember. It accesses that part of Eads, but the main entrance is about a quarter mile further west on 64 there where Collierville, Arlington is. That's the way I'd say 90% of the people get back there. People don't even hardly use that road. But I don't know what pictures y'all are looking at and everything. I've not seen those, but there has been a time when we were out there doing some dirt work. They got some dirt on the road, but we tried to clean it up just like we would any other site. But we didn't tear the road up. There's also new construction going on back further to the south a couple miles, and I noticed some of those dump trucks that kind of it would use it every once in a while, but that was not us. As far as the use for that property, like it's already been said, there's just not really much anything else that could be done with it. It definitely can't have residential because there's no sewer there, and it does not perk at all. We found one little spot that perked that was big enough to do a septic system for this particular building in this business because they have, just an office with a man and a woman's bathroom. So there's no way it could be residential or anything like that. I guess that's it.
All right, thank you. Do we have any questions?
Thank you.
No further questions. Is there anyone else in support of this application? Seeing that there is I'm assuming you're in opposition or support.
Ma'am?
Are you in opposition or support, sir? You're standing. Okay, you're supporting your wife. Yeah, and duly noted, she had spoken on behalf, because we have closed that part of her testimony. I do appreciate you for standing up, and we do recognize your support of your wife.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Shannon. Since there is no further questions for staff and/or the applicant in opposition.
Madam Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Just a thought, is there could we take a minute or two to maybe talk with the opposition to see if there is something in particular that we can address with this application. I understand that there's the issue of some roads being damaged, and it sounds like that may have come from somewhere else other than the applicant. But is there anything, can we just talk a little bit and see if there is anything in particular that we can point to that we may be able to address?
I think we have closed her testimony at this moment, but
If a two-thirds majority wishes to hear from her, just as long as we provide the applicant equal amount of.
correct. Do our fellow board members want to hear rebuttal testimony?
Sounds like it's a county road issue to me, though. You know?
We will allow a few minutes, Mr. Gregg, for you to ask her a question, and then we will also have that same time for the applicant.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Ms. Shannon, if you don't mind stepping to the podium, Mr. Love has a couple questions he wants to ask.
Okay.
Ms. Shannon, I understand that you have some concerns with the upkeep of the roadways, particularly Washington. Is there, well, first thing, according to what the applicant is suggesting, is that there may have been some other.
Yes, sir. There have been. This is the fourth company that has put in for rebuilding our Washington Road. This is the fourth company that I have had to come down here to come before the council.
Yes, ma'am.
And each time the commissioner, they told them to build them a road. Don't use Washington Road. It's been since 2023. They have not built it. There's no walking room. There's no, if you look at the pictures, you'll see there's, when a car or a truck come down there, there's no room in between. Our neighbors walk, but there's no sidewalk to walk. Our neighbors ride the bicycle, but there's no bike lanes down there where our neighbors that do come down there can even bicycle. So if I live in that neighborhood, what am I going to do if I have been there for the last 26 years? What kind of living condition am I going to be left with?
Yes, ma'am.
With this approval?
Yes, ma'am. Now, the applicant is suggesting that the ingress and egress, or the way they'll come and go from this site, is going to be from 64. They won't be using Washington.
Yeah, but they have to use Washington Road. They don't use, they refuse to use 64.
Well,
each one refused to use 64.
Well, if this case is approved, they'll have to use 64 as illustrated in the site plan. And if you have some issues with any exit or entrance from Washington, you can come back and go to code enforcement and raise that point.
And also, where the land has been cleared off, there's on the east side, there's no lights, street lights. There's only 3 street lights. All right, when you come down the hill, that land is under the road itself that they have took and sold the dirt out from that area. They have cleared the trees out from that area. It's no longer a usable area, period, unless you build a bridge or build a buffer on Washington Road. That land is under the ground. So why are you trying to build something that eventually somebody gonna come down that road and go land on top of it?
Yes,
or go straight through it?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Well, I think that what's been brought before us today is we have a site that has very limited ways that it could be used. Because this use is going to be inside of the building, everything is going to be enclosed. The exit and entrance is going to be from Highway 64. And we all understand that over time, 64 is a major, it's a highway. And it's developed as commercial and light industrial uses. And I think that if they keep their comings and goings to 64, I don't think that they'll have as much impact on Washington as you think they will.
Well, December 13th, 2024, all that land has been filled, tried to fill in. Even to build that road, even to build the land up. Yes, they are trying to build, they still coming down 64, 64, not Washington Road, they still coming down that.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Well, thank you for coming down, and I really appreciate you sharing with us what you did today. Thank you so much.
And for the record, they have, the applicant has 3 minutes if it wants to rebuttal.
Yes, and also, would the applicant have any issue with a condition prohibiting access from Washington Road, just out of curiosity?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Would you have any problem if the board added a condition prohibiting access from Washington Road?
From the buyers and entering?
Correct.
Yeah, I would be fine with that. And that's what I was a little confused on. Mrs. Shannon, she keeps saying that they don't use 64, that they only use Washington Road, but there's nobody there yet. So I don't understand what she's saying on that. It feels like she's more concerned about the road and everything in the neighborhood, I guess, down the road than where that property is. But that's all I have on that. But I wanted to say one thing a while ago, which Mrs. Shannon kept saying about she's back, that this project has already been, voted against, but that's not correct. This is a completely separate project. We lost by one on the vote for a storage facility like the one that's next door. We lost that PD by one vote, and we were told to try to come up with something else, and this is what we've come up with. Thank you.
Question I have for you is, there's no objection to the Class 3 buffer that's recommended by, and just for point of clarity, that buffer will be on the Washington side or
the west side, which is Washington.
Okay.
There is already a bunch of large trees there, but no objection to the buffer.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions of the applicant? All right, at this time, we're going to close open testimony. Thank you, Ms. Shannon. May I now get a motion to approve BOA?
So moved.
Second. Do we need to add that friendly amendment?
I have a draft of it if someone would like to read this into the record. No access is permitted from Washington Road is a new condition number 5.
And then want to renew those to move to approve BOA 2424-0109 as conditioned by staff with the friendly amendment that has been read into record.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. It has been properly moved in second. Mr. Francis, may we get a roll call vote?
Mr. Love.
Yes.
Mr. Claybrook.
Yes.
Ms. Conrad.
Yes.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
Chair Savage Selden.
Yes, I find that the standard of the UDC of 9.22.6 are being met and will not be unduly detrimental to the properties in the vicinity.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Motion passes. Thank you, Ms. Shannon, for your testimony. Ms. Shannon, we have your proof. All right. Mr. Secretary, or Mr. Chairman is back. Thank you.
Hey.
All right, if you could call our next case we're going to hear today. I guess it's our last case.
Item number 14, BOA 2024-119 at 4233 South 3rd Street.
Hey, for the record, I will recuse myself on this case. I am the architect of record.
So noted.
Thank you much. much. So is the applicant here? Very good. And is the opposition here? Gotcha. Okay. Y'all can come down front if you want to. All right, and Ms. Christian, could we get a staff report, please?
Sure. So I'll just be presenting from the staff report for this case. Chloe Christian with DPD, presenting case number BOA 2024-0119. This is a use variance request from section 2.5.2 to allow vehicle repair and fueling for city vehicles at a city-operated multi-use facility located at 4233 South 3rd Street. City of Memphis is the applicant, and they're represented by Savannah Stoger, who's here with us today from Kimley Horn. Here's a location map of the property. It's located in the West Memphis area. We sent out 132 notices on November 27, 2024. And I will say I did not receive any letters or calls of opposition. I received one call of inquiry, but no information that was included in the report. The property is currently zoned commercial mixed use 1, which does not allow for vehicle repair or fueling. However, I would like to point out that all the other associated uses are allowed by right, which include a library, a pavilion, and a maintaining of one of the film screens here. The land use designation for the property is commercial. It's surrounded by a mix of uses, but there is some residentially zoned properties to the west here. Here are some photos of the site from South 3rd Street and West Rains Road. This is the location of the former Malco Southwest Twin Drive-In, if any of y'all are familiar with that. And the project proposes to maintain this screen here with some open space, as well as the pavilion that was used for concessions for the drive-in theater. Here's a photo of the pavilion here. This is the proposed site plan prepared by the applicant. So the site is fairly large. It sits on about 17 acres. As you can see, this would be the location of the proposed police station with the fueling and repair station here. This would be the location of the proposed library, and in the center is a public pavilion that would be maintained with bathrooms and facilities that are open to the public. Here would be the proposed open space and the film screen to remain here. This is just a magnified view of the project. And so in conclusion, staff, we recommend approval of this variance. Like I said, all the other associated uses are allowed by right, including the police station, the library, and the pavilion. And the maintenance is a use that would be sort of required to support the other uses that are happening on this site. So the staff recommendation is approval with the standard condition that any change or deviation to the site plan is subject to a correspondence application that shall be reviewed by this body. And that concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So really the only part that really needs the variance is the fleet services that's in the corner?
That's correct. It would be the fleet maintenance, including fueling for city vehicles only.
Okay, and is that like a building or just like a canopy with pumps? Or ask the applicant?
I would defer to applicant for that.
Okay. All right, if the applicant will come up and give your name and address for the record.
Hi, Savannah Stoger with Kimley Horn and Associates.
Okay, do you swear to, give your address too, sorry.
Oh, 6750 Poplar Avenue.
Okay, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Okay, go ahead and share it with us.
So you had asked about the fuel island.
Yeah, like give me a little more detail about what that's gonna look like.
Right now, the city hasn't proposed like a plan for it yet, but I would assume it's just a standard canopy.
Okay.
And then the only thing I would echo, because we are in agreement with the staff report, is the increase of landscaping we are bringing to this site. So we're going to essentially like preserve the site with a lot of the features and let them remain and speak for themselves, you know, speak to the community of the area. But we're also going to increase landscaping, provide a park space, and the detention that is proposed on site is not necessarily needed. We're actually doing that to help the community and the South Cypress Creek area. So we're going to help with stormwater in that area. But as for like landscaping in regards to the screening, we will meet all class buffers that are required per the UDC. And so all of those uses that aren't necessarily like allowed by right will be screened. That's all I have, unless you have any questions for me.
Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Stover? Okay, we'll let you reserve time.
Yep.
It's probably 8:47, so plenty. So you can then, once you hear the concerns of the opposition, we can maybe address those.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I have a card here from, looks like 2 people. Support and opposition are checked on there. But we kind of have to do one or the other.
I guess it would depend on the question. The detention here is the actual part that I am.
Why don't you speak in opposition and we can get those answered? Okay. Yeah, because that's what, yeah. So why don't you go ahead and come down and let's give your name and address for the record.
Okay. Patrick Harrington, 4210 Tunnel Wonder Street.
Okay, and do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
So help you God? All right, go ahead, Mr. Harrington.
So for me, there's a proposal for the detention area.
Okay.
That poses a negative connotation for the community. The neighborhood you were talking about, I actually stay on that street, which is west of the Southwest Twin Movie Theater.
That's a detention pond, correct?
Detention.
That is water detention.
Water.
Oh.
So that's.
I just wanted to come down here and say hello, that's all. Yeah, I just wanted to see how things run. You guys look good.
They may have something, I don't know how the police work. They may have to bring some people into the station, but that up there, the little kind of circle that's above the lawn.
Right.
That is just, they're digging out, so when it rains, water has a place to go, and that's actually gonna help the neighborhood too, probably.
Gotcha. So the 3 proposed detention areas are actually ponds.
Yes, those are like, just you have those in front of buildings,
Right.
where you have that swell and stuff like that. So it adds a little bit of texture to the property and then helps with the water flow too.
Yeah, I see that now. It looks real good.
I'll say this, it's really small. Like,
Yeah.
you gotta really zoom in on that stuff. So I get you.
Okay. My daughter told me to ask what was detention area before I said anything. So she's graduating from Lamar. Maybe I should have listened to her. Other than that, I have nothing to oppose in.
Okay.
You guys doing such a wonderful job. Just want to.
Thanks for coming down. All right, so I'm gonna ask, is there any other opposition that's here? Yeah, come on down and we can swear you in and talk. Yeah. And so if you'll give your name and address for the record.
Joya Harrington, 4210 Tonawanda Street.
Okay, and do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, Joya.
So one of my questions with the pond, is there going to be a lot of more like walking areas? Because that was one of the things I wanted to get. Okay, great. But then that's it.
We have the person to ask here.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
I don't think so.
Okay, so what we do, like, we're going to close your comments and go back to the applicant. This is kind of how it works then.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you for coming down. I don't know if any of y'all saw the 2 meetings yesterday with the city council and then with the school board, but this is an amazing meeting to be at for how polite everybody is. So we're going to close opposition and go back to the applicant to answer that question, if you could.
Yes, so right now we are proposing a walking trail throughout, so you can see the landscaping in that open space, and then those like trails, it's 3 fingers of like trails to walk throughout that area, and then as well as around the pavilion. So we're hoping to get I think it's like a 1/4 of a mile of walking in that area.
So walking basically from the pavilion and then up to the, I guess that'd be kind of the northwest.
Yes, correct.
Not necessarily around the police station.
Correct.
Okay.
You will be able to walk to the police station, but not
Sure.
necessarily
Yeah, and you're
around
not
it.
crossing those streets where more traffic's coming and stuff like
Correctly.
that. Okay. All right, any other questions? All right, well, then we're gonna, if we could get a motion to approve BOA 2024-119 as conditioned by staff.
So moved.
Second.
All right, is there any discussion? All right, I assume we're ready to vote.